Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on tonight's show, we're going to be dissecting that 2-1 loss to Aston Villa at the weekend. And there is lots to get through on this episode, so stay in tune. Joining me tonight for this discussion is Craig. Craig, how are we, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad myself. And as well, joining Craig always mentioned his old man quite a lot on this podcast. And I thought with the sort of eventful game that we've had on the weekend, it might be a good idea to kind of get a different perspective on some of the things that went on, including some of the stuff that's going on now and in terms of the Brentford social space. So Russell, Craig's dad, is joining us for the first time, making his Eden Road debut. Russell, mate, nice to have you on. And yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much. No problem. Pleasure to be on.
Lovely. Just before we get going, guys, remember to subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channels, leave a rating there as well, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. So I thought we'll just get straight into it. I thought the best way to do this would be to talk about the football first, and then we can have a whole kind of discussion on Ollie Watkins, because I feel like we could probably do a whole episode on that alone with some of the stuff that I've seen on Twitter and socials flying around on Brentford sort of social media. Big event, and it's still going on. I don't know how it's still going on, but I still see some people tweeting about it, which I think is mental. But let's talk about the football first. So I think, Craig, first of all we need to say that we actually played very well against one of the league's best sides, and like we talked about in the last episode, that was without the majority of our ideal starting 11.
Well, everyone knew going into it that it was going to arguably be one of the toughest games we've had in a very long time, even with the run of fixtures we've had at certain points. They're the team to beat at the moment. You know, a lot of us went into the game not expecting very much, and the performance that we put in kind of maybe warranted a bit more than the actual result shows.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think there's some flashpoints that I want to talk about before we start looking at some of the players' performances. First one I think we should mention is definitely John McGinn on Ben Mee. Russell, how did you see that, having watched it back? Because I feel like when I watched it back on Match of the Day, I mean, in the ground, I thought it was a pen, but having watched it back on Match of the Day, it's kind of two ways. It seems like Ben Mee's holding McGinn and McGinn's holding Ben Mee. But how did you see it?
Well, same as you at the game. I'm in the West Stand, same as you and Craig, and it was in front of us, and it's a penalty all day long. It's a penalty. Even watching the replays, it's a penalty. There is an initial tussle, you're right, where they're both grappling with each other. But as soon as the ball is crossed, John McGinn stops looking at the ball. His only intention is to get his arm around Ben Mee's throat, fall to the floor himself, and take him down. How on earth that's not a penalty? I have no idea. But, you tell me, right, if that was at Anfield or the Emirates or somewhere like that, they're getting a penalty. 100% they're getting a penalty. Because we're Brentford, we don't kick up enough stink, mate. So, and you're going to move on to further flashpoints, obviously, because that wasn't the only one. But we had a weak as piss referee who had no control of the game whatsoever. Before that had even happened. McGinn was bossing the game for him. Every time someone went near McGinn and blew in his ear, he fell over. And then he got up and wanted the referee to book him. And I didn't think he was allowed to ask the referee to book people anymore. And even Norgard in the second half was going up to the referee saying, he's not allowed to do that. What are you doing? But I won't go on, mate. I'll let you keep moving on. Like you said, I could go on for ages about this game. It was crazy.
Yeah, I know. I think we will talk about the ref, because I feel like he's important in all of the kind of key flashpoints that have come up. I think the next one is involving Ben Mee. For me, I think we might differ on this one, Russ. I'm scared now, but for me, I think this one is quite clear cut. In today's game, I think it's quite clear cut. I think in today's game, Mee flies him with 2 feet off the ground. He doesn't quite make contact with Bailey. But if Bailey's foot is in the ground and he does make contact with Bailey, he breaks his leg. And for me, the only surprising thing I think for me, maybe not looking back on it now because of how shit he was all game, was the fact that Coote was stood right in front of that and he somehow gave a yellow card and the VAR had to bail him out. What I would say, Craig, is that if that's a red card, then how is Onyeka's against Sheffield United last week not a red card? And also, if that's a red card, there's so many instances this season, like Kai Havertz at Newcastle, when he flies in with 2 feet off the ground, the ref books him, the VAR has a look at it, and they say that it's okay. So what I want is a bit more consistency. But for me, Craig, I think that was a red card, and that there are still Brentford fans on Twitter who seem to have different opinions, and they think it was harsh. But having watched it back, I'm pretty nailed on with that.
A lot of football fans, everyone will agree, are very fickle. Football fans are fickle beings, so it doesn't really matter what our opinion of it is. You know, I went to VAR and they probably got the decision right based on, you know, like you said, he was off the ground, he's flown in, but you've kind of hit it on the head where you just need a bit of consistency from, just a bit of consistency from the officials, mate. We talked about that on Yeka one last against Sheffield United, and that's over the top, on top of the ankle. And they've looked at that for a very long time as well at Sheffield United, and somehow come to the conclusion that wasn't a red card. Now, as you said, if Leon Bailey's foot is in the ground, it's probably a different story. But he seems to get just enough out of the way that he doesn't get hurt so badly, but Ben Mee catches him. Mate, if that happens to a Brentford player, I'm screaming for a red card. Yeah,
100%. I think as well, Russell, and it annoys me as well that maybe Ben Mee has not come under as much scrutiny because of what else happened in the game. But if you look at it sort of holistically, Ben Mee has lost us that game by flying in needlessly when we're 1-0 up into a tackle. And I feel like he's not maybe come under the spotlight as much because of everything else that's happened in the game. What did you make of the red card? And do you think that's fair in that he's maybe not come under as much stick?
I think it's fair that he hasn't come out as much stick. Yeah, I agree with you there. But going on your consistency thing with VAR, that for me is the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because the referee, like you said, is 6 feet away, has seen it. He's probably got a clearer view than VAR have, and he's seen it as a yellow card, right? So at what point does VAR then say he's made a clear and obvious error? When you're going on the consistency thing, like Onyeka should have been sent off the week before, but wasn't. And that was looked at for just as long as this one was. How they can see that isn't a red card, I don't know. Going back to Brighton, when Wissa slapped Gilmore around the face. You know, yes, it was an accident. It was an accident. He wasn't deliberately trying to slap him, but he's cuffed him around the face. Now, the Villa player got sent off for pushing Yarmulke in the face. Where's the consistency? So if the referee, I'll be honest, during the game, I didn't even think it was a foul. I thought Ben Mee had flown in, won the ball, and clipped him on the follow-through. The Villa player didn't even go down when Ben Mee went in. He didn't go down until a different Brentford player ran into his back and knocked him over. The referee blew for the foul. We was all up in arms. How's that a free kick? And then he's booked him. For it then to go to VAR because they've decided he needs another look, he doesn't need another look. Let the referee the game unless he has made a clear and obvious error. And if you're going to pull one up, you have to pull every single one up, like you're saying, and that's the consistency thing. But because of what happened afterwards, yes, Ben Mee has got off lightly for making us play half an hour with 10 men, yes. Because against a side like Villa, they're always going to come back into it.
Yeah, exactly. I think when that red card happened, you kind of knew how it was going to go. But the one thing that maybe might have made that change is the last incident that I do want to talk about, the Morpay penalty shout that didn't get any airtime on Match of the Day apart from the actual highlight itself. Russell, what's your take on it, first of all? Did you think it was a pen? I think we're going to come back to the whole consistency kind of vibe that we were on in the last couple of questions. But Craig, Russell, how did you see it?
Well, I thought it was a pen. I thought it was a pen at the time. I've seen it back, plenty of replays. I still think it's a penalty. And I've read people saying Maupay initiated contact by running across him. What the hell's he supposed to do? He's a striker. Right? He was trying to get it on his stronger foot, which is his right foot, which meant he had to cut across the defender. He's well within his rights to slow down to try and get the shot away. It's the defender's job to not run into the back of him, to try and get to the side of him to make a tackle. Konza made no attempt to run round him to make the tackle. He just ran straight into the back of him. How is that not a penalty again? And like you say, if we get that penalty and score it, we're 2-0 up before they've even got themselves back into the game. So, again, weak as piss refereeing, mate.
Craig, how did you see it, mate?
I don't think there's anything else really to add, isn't there? But my mind goes to another scenario like that. Burnley at home in the first season in the Prem when we beat them 2-0. I think it was, I can't remember who it was. One of their players got sent off for a nudge in the back of Ivan Toney when he's done exactly the same thing as what Neil Maupay's done. Now we're going back a fair way there, a couple of years. But again, aren't we talking about a lack of consistency from officials for not giving one, but giving the other again?
Yeah, but it's another one of those decisions that at Anfield, Salah's getting a penalty there. Salah's getting that penalty. No,
you could be right. You could be right. I think as well with the whole. I think with the whole initiating contact thing, I think we lost the game at Newcastle because Gordon initiated the contact against Flecken
when he initiated contact.
Yeah, I know. So it kind of goes both ways. It's for me. I think he cuts across him when he does.
Anthony Gordon as well. I despise Anthony Gordon as well.
I know, but he's somehow managed to con the referee, but Maupay hasn't. It's just there's no consistency in the decisions being made. But I don't want to talk too much about the sort of feeling hard done by decisions, because I think we should talk about the performance on the pitch as well, because we were, as we touched upon at the beginning, very good against a strong Villa team who also had a couple of injuries, but still man for man, they've got better players than us all over the pitch. And we do have a lot of injuries at the moment. I think we should talk about some of the players in the first half. Craig, I know you're a Damsgaard enthusiast. How impressed were you with him in the first half? Because he got hooked. He got hooked in the second, but in the first half he was really good, I thought.
Wow. I obviously I didn't unfortunately get to the game. I've watched the highlights of it, and I know we was going to move on to the chance that he had. We've spoken about it a couple of times with the chance where it just seems that he's massively predictable. When the ball falls to him inside the penalty area, all he's got to do is hit it. Just put your foot for it and hit the back of the net, get your first Brentford goal, move on. But Martinez seems to have telegraphed exactly what he's trying to do. And that's exactly what we've been saying. Is I like Damsgaard. I'm a big fan. I want him to do well. But he needs a goal. We had this conversation about Sharda. We had this conversation about KLP, who got his first goal. He needs a goal, and then he'll kick on.
Yeah. What did you? I think with Damsgaard, I think you're absolutely right. Nail on the head with the fact that Martinez kind of telegraphed it, even from where we were stood in the West Stand. His body shape as he approached the ball was just so easily readable to the goalkeeper. He's kind of diving that way before he's even struck it. And I was just thinking, just put your laces for it. You're that far out. You've got no one in front of you. So if you hit it high into the net when the keeper's already diving, you're going to score. But he doesn't. It was a good performance, though. He was more authoritative, I thought, on the ball. And he is that player that will take another touch and kind of set himself before making a decision. Whereas I feel like someone like Janelt might not have that in his locker. I feel like Janelt gives the ball away a lot with sort of wayward passes, whereas Damsgaard's a bit more like Jensen in that he'll keep the ball, get his head up, maybe beat a man, or maybe just like fake a shot or fake a pass so that he has a bit more time to make a decision. But I was impressed with his performance. Do I see him coming back into the side when we have a full strength team? Probably not, which might be a slight indication that we might have failed in that transfer, considering now if we're maybe when did we sign him? A couple of seasons ago, and we're this many games in, and I know he's been hampered by injuries, but the fact that with a full strength team, he wouldn't get into our starting 11, I'm not so convinced on Damsgaard anymore. Genuinely, I'm not. But he's got the rest of the season to turn it around, and I know you want him to succeed, Craig, so let's hope he does. Russell, I do think we should also talk about Christian Norgard, because for me, in that game, I thought he was our best player on the pitch by a mile and up there with some of the best performers on the pitch, alongside your mate McGinn. And he doesn't perhaps get the plaudits that he deserves purely because he is like an ever-present in the team. He's our captain and you expect him to do well, and he does do well. But he is a 10 out of 10 every game. And I thought he was excellent on Sunday, wasn't he?
Oh, 100% agree, mate. Yeah, he was brilliant. What I like about Norgard is he never seems to move quickly. He just seems to glide around the pitch, knowing where to be. He never looks like he's having to rush to do anything. But then in a split second, he will break into a little bit of speed. And as soon as he does that, you know he's going to win the ball.
Yeah, I was listening to, I think it was either a United Athletic podcast or maybe something on YouTube the other day, and they were talking about how there's no high-quality out-and-out sixes in the Premier League, and I just think Norgard is that out-and-out six. And he is high quality, and I think he'd slot into top six side quite comfortably. But I feel like with these big six sides, they want the exotic name, so they'd rather go for Sofiane Amrabat, even though he's fucking shite, instead of someone like Christian Norgard, who would do really well. But that's not me trying to sell Christian Norgard as well. I want him to stay at Brentford for as long as possible. So moving on swiftly, we'll go on to KLP scoring. Craig, we said after Sheffield United, he just needed that goal. He gets it on Sunday. How did you rate his performance after watching the highlights? Because from being there, I mean, I thought he had a good game. He scored the goal, obviously, which helps. A few nice touches in there, but it was a difficult game for him against those centre halves, big players. KLP doesn't have that much pace. There was a moment in the second half when he kind of gets through. I don't know if you remember, Russ. He kind of gets through, and Whistler's on his right, but he just doesn't get doesn't get a good enough first touch to take it across his man, and his pace was kind of exposed. But he does score, Craig. So how did you rate him on the day?
I mean, he does very well to react quicker than the defender, which was closest to get that strike away. And he's caught it cleanly and hit the back of the net. And I think that's the most important thing from the game that needs to be taken away. Is the fact that he got his first goal. We've spoken about him probably the last 2 or 3 episodes that we've done, where we keep saying he needs a goal to get his confidence up, to boost himself, to keep playing and improving as he is doing. We've always said he's impressive when he's on the ball. It's kind of the work off the ball and his movement off the ball. I think that now he's got his goal, we might see him take a few more risks with the ball at his feet, try a couple of different things. But we know there's a player in there. We said it last time, there's a player in there. Just a bit of consistency, couple of goals, be a bit braver on the ball, and yeah, he'll be all right.
Yeah, and I think we should also mention, because we haven't yet, we should also give credit to Villa. Like I expected them to have more of the ball, and I expected us to defend quite low like we normally do against these big six sides, and they kept coming. And it's testament to how good that back line is. I spoke about it on a podcast I did with one of their fan channels last week about their kind of revolution in defence and how well that back line has kind of gelled under Unai Emery, who I think is doing an amazing job there. Like, you could have seen that fixture, especially if we hadn't got the red card. I really think we would have gone on to win that game. And it was a potential banana skin, but they deserved at least a point. I think a point would have actually been a fair result on the balance of the game, but it wasn't like once we went 1-0 up, they kind of were under pressure the whole game. They did have most of the ball. They did have chances, and they made it happen in the end. So I feel like we should give their credit to Villa for making it quite a difficult day for our forwards as well. One more I think we should mention, Saman Ghoddos, Russell. I mean, his form this season has been incredible, and I feel like we've mentioned it quite a few times now, but I want to talk about it again, because it's another unbelievable performance from him as a makeshift kind of fullback. And he had such a good game down on the left. I remember in the second half, there's a couple of times where Matty Cash tries to get past him, or Leon Bailey tried to get past him, and he just flattened them, stick out a leg, and they go tumbling over his leg, and he's just come on leaps and bounds. And again, we have to kind of say sorry to him for being so underwhelmed by the signing, or the re-signing of him over the summer, because he's just come really good, hasn't he, Russell?
Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I liked him when he was here before. I never had any issue with him. Right? I always thought he was one of those players that got next to no game time, but always gave 100% when he was on the pitch. And as the old saying goes, isn't it surprising when he's had a run of games, maybe not in his favoured position, but he's on the pitch every game, and all of a sudden, people are seeing a better player because he's now match fit. He's involved every game. Mate, when Hickey's back after Christmas, I would have Godos at right wing back ahead of Roslev every game.
Yeah,
it would be Godos and Hickey for me. Because he is so attacking minded as well, Godos. And he doesn't have Rico's pace, but he don't stop running. He's brilliant. I think he's great. He's well worth another contract at the end of this season for me. Well worth another contract. I
think so as well. You need that kind of utility player in your team that can play across the 10 players, maybe apart from like centre half. But he's come on leaps and bounds, and I have to hold my hands up and say that I got it completely wrong when we re-signed him, because he's proven to be, especially with all these injuries, such an important cog in that team, and it's another 10 out of 10 performance from him. So long may that continue. Craig, let's talk about the two kings of shithousery, Neil Maupay, Emi Martinez. I think that's like the two headlines apart from the football is obviously the Watkins drama and Maupay and Martinez in that last kind of 10 minutes. I think
they're just as bad as each other, aren't they? They're really just as bad as each other. They're those players that you hate playing against, but you love having them in your team, because a lot of the time Maupay comes off of their bench and you're thinking to yourself, just go and piss them off. Just go and frustrate them, go and annoy them, get inside their heads. And it's exactly what he does. But when one shithouse meets another shithouse, it just kind of turned into pure chaos in the last 10 minutes, didn't it? I mean, all of the videos floating around social media of Martinez rolling around after he's got a little bump from Maupay, and then Maupay rolling around from a little push from Martinez and just laying there. I think it's what makes it entertaining sometimes, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I think when Maupay came on, I just knew, especially like the way the game was going, that we just had a man sent off, and obviously he came in before the red card, but we just had a man sent off, and once there started to be a little bit of tension in the game, and it was people getting angry at the ref, I just knew Neil would somehow cause some sort of upset. And with Martinez, I mean, the first clip when he kind of barges into him and Martinez goes down is embarrassing. The second clip where Maupay goes down after Martinez just literally sticks out his arm ever so slightly and Neil gets on the floor. It's embarrassing and it's hilarious, but Neil Maupay is good value for money, mate. Even if he could go on to be crap for the rest of the season, I just love that man. He can do no wrong, in my opinion. And I saw that clip. I don't know if you guys.
Entertainment factor as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You never know what he's going to do next. And
you knew it was going to happen. The second incident, like when Martinez done Maupay, after what Martinez done, when Maupay budged him, you knew what was going to happen. But then Martinez seemed to have a brain fart and forgot that 5 minutes previous, he'd acted like a total dick. Now Maupay was doing it back to him. He didn't like it. And that dragging him by the shirt around what the hell was that about?
Yeah, he didn't even get booked either for that.
No, but another Villa player had to quickly run over and pull Maupay's shirt down because it was up over his head.
I know.
It was crazy.
I know.
But then all of that happens in injury time. That started 2 minutes into injury time. The game restarted on the 10-minute mark into injury time. And then the referee played a further 2 minutes. So in theory, we should have had 8 minutes of 10-on-10 with a chance to get an equaliser. But we got 2. Again, piss poor refereeing.
Yeah, I think that's the theme of the episode. Piss poor refereeing. Let's talk about it then. Let's get on to the big thing. Unless there's anything else either of you want to mention before we get on to Watkins.
Yes, I texted you, mate. I texted you about it before. Saman Godos should never receive any slander from any Brentford fan ever again for the way that he reacted to all of them Villa players in the Brentford goal after Watkins had scored. He was first in there, and he had about 3 of them at one go. So he has the utmost respect from me forever.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I reckon I'm quite scared because, Craig, you've seen what I've written for this, so I don't know what your take is, Russell. But I'm going to give you mine before we sort of just kind of just go for it and just dissect it all. I think what needs to be said with Watkins is that we're all very angry walking out the stand. I was very angry when it happened. Everyone was angry in that stand. Someone on Twitter even said that it could have incited a riot, which I thought was a little bit melodramatic, but we were all angry. It has to be said. And I just wish it wasn't Ollie, because before the game, I think if you spoke to any Brentford fan on the street, we'd have nothing but love for Ollie. And it's just a shame it's happened to him. I think if there was any kind of ex-player, I think he'd be the bottom of my list for this to actually happen to. So it's just a shame. I think I want to say that first. Second of all, I think if I was a football player, which I'm not, but if I was, and a fan had been abusing me the whole game, I don't know what was said, and it's been spoken about that it's not racially motivated. But the first thing I'd want to do if I'd scored would be to turn around and give it some back. It's like Ian Wright said on Match of the Day, you can't dish it out and not take it back. Having said that, because it was Brentford, Ollie Watkins should have known better. He should have known that what he did was going to cause a massive reaction, and the whole stand is going to be onto him as soon as it happens. So I think what has happened is there's a massive lapse in judgment from Ollie Watkins, and he should have known better. From a fan who may or may not have been being a knob to him and calling him whatever and insulting his family, whatever he was saying to him, he should not have done that. And in hindsight, I know he said in his interview on Match of the Day afterwards that if the fan had been saying all that stuff again, then he would have done it. I think he's lying. I think he regrets it. You can kind of see it written on his face that he was genuinely upset that the whole stand or the whole ground was calling him a wanker and calling him this and that. So, and I've come under a bit of stick for this on my stance. But I think we should also say Ollie Watkins is a professional footballer. He shouldn't let one bloke get under his skin that much, knowing the circumstances against your old club, against a set of fans who have so much admiration for you. And he is right. We've done a lot for him. He's done a lot for us. So people on Twitter saying that he hasn't done a lot for us because he didn't get us promoted and he bottled the playoff final, I just think bigger picture. And I did get a bit of stick for something I tweeted straight after the game, saying that I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I phrased that wrong, but what I meant is that I don't think he was kind of celebrating like that with the intention of pissing off every single Brentford fan in the ground. I think it's very clear that he's allowed one person in the stands to get under his skin, but he's taken that information and he's run with it in the wrong way. Russell, I don't know. Maybe I should let you come in now before I start to maybe rub some Brentford fans up the wrong way. What did you think? What did you think of the incident? What do you think of the fallout? Because a lot of people, I've seen people agree, I've seen people disagree. It's kind of there's two opinions floating about. So what did you make of it?
Well, with regards to fallout, I don't do social media. I'm not on Facebook. I don't do Twitter. The any kind of Brentford chat that I do is on the GPG. Right. So any of that Facebook and Twitter fallout, I don't know. But at the time when he scored, I saw, obviously we were all pissed off he scored, and I saw him pointing at somebody. Right now, like you said, my initial reaction, rightly or wrongly, was somebody been racially abusing him, purely because, like you said, it's Ollie Watkins, and anyone you asked holds Ollie Watkins in plenty of high regard since he's left Brentford, mostly because of what he does with Woody. So you've got nothing but good feelings towards Ollie Watkins. So why would you do that to the Brentford crowd unless it's something as serious as? Now, that's wrong of me, but that's the climate that we live in, that you immediately go to the worst case scenario, right? I've been going to Brentford since the late 80s. Now, if all that fallout like from Villa and all this needs to be, the fan needs to be found, abuse can't be in. Jesus Christ, I'd have been banned from football years ago. Right? Because that's why you go to football. You've got to get under these players' skins. And I wouldn't, one thing that really bugs me is when a player leaves, and I don't care how good they've been for us, is they get a round of applause when they come onto the pitch at Brentford. I hate it. All right? You are no longer a Brentford player. Your job is now to try and beat my team. There is no way I'm going to give you encouragement to try and beat my team. I will hound you. And if you're man enough at the end of that game to walk around Brentford's pitch and clap, I will give you the biggest round of applause because you've earned it. I will not do it before a game. Now, yes, I joined in with all the chanting against Watkins.
So did
because,
I. There's no shame in that. I think at the time.
For me, well, we all know football is tribal. So for me, you take on one Brentford fan, you're taking us all on, mate. All right, and I will back any Brentford fan over a professional footballer. Now, Ollie Watkins has come out and said he was getting given abuse for the whole game. Well, you spent the first 45 minutes up the other end of the pitch. Right? I stand 2 seats away from Craig, and sometimes I can't even hear what he's saying to me. I have to ask him to repeat it. So how good is Ollie Watkins hearing for a start? If it wasn't racial, the worst case scenario was your mum. You know what I mean? Are we back in the playground now? All right? Your mum this and your mum that. So what? What he should have done was just shut off up the pitch, celebrated with the Villa fans. He scored against us at Villa Park last year and celebrated. And some people got the hump with that. I have no problem with former players celebrating scoring a goal. What he did last year when he scored was he ran and celebrated with the Villa fans. Brilliant. You're a Villa player now. You're nothing to do with us. I'm not going to get the hump because you're celebrating scoring against Brentford. Well, what you don't do is celebrate in front of the opposition fans. Now, the main reason that it all kicked off, like you said, is because it's Ollie Watkins. How much grief do we give the likes of James Maddison? And then he'll score and he'll stand in front of us and give it the large one. And that you have to take because you've been giving it to him. You have to take that. It'll annoy the shit out of you, but you've got to take it because of who he is. Because it's Ollie Watkins, everyone feels like it's a family member has suddenly disrespected you. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, you've been outcast now. Now you're an outcast. And next year when you come to Brentford, you're going to get it for 90 minutes. And that is what will happen. Even though a couple of days have passed and I can go, yeah, I know he shouldn't have done it. I know he's really a nice guy. He just had a brain fart and reacted to what someone had said. You know as well as I do, mate, next year's game, he's going to be getting it for 90 minutes.
Next year's game,
100%.
Play them.
If we're playing them away doesn't count because 40,000 Villa fans are going to drown us out when we're at Villa Park.
I think the key part of that whole thing, though, is what you said at the end. You know, you can come out of the game and you can accept it and be like, okay, maybe he's had a brain fart or maybe he's not thought about it and he's kind of fucked up his legacy in a way. But the absolute outrage that I've seen on social media, the absolute head loss that seems to happen with Brentford fans when something goes wrong. He scored, he celebrated, Brentford lost, we don't like him anymore. But genuinely, you'd think he'd posted a video of just shitting all over the Brentford flag or something, or the Brentford badge, with the way some people have gone.
But doesn't that happen on social media after every Brentford defeat? Somebody has to go mental about something.
The best analogy I saw was Watkins celebrating against us is like walking into your bedroom and finding your best mate shagging your bird.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of an overreaction from some people. I feel like as well, in the heat of the moment, straight after the game, I was really angry at him and I was upset because it was him, like you mentioned, Russell, because he has, you know, he's got a bit of a reputation. He was at the club for so long. He's done well for us. But you're absolutely right in the fact that now he's nothing to do with Brentford. So I didn't really care if he'd have run up the other end and scored and celebrated. I don't really care, but I just think it is a little bit of an overreaction for some people to still be going on about it today. Like, fair enough. Do I dislike Ollie Watkins now? Yes. Do I think he regrets what he did? Yes. Even though he said he didn't on Match of the Day, adds a little bit of spice to the reverse fixture, and maybe, well, definitely he will get booed the next time he comes to the ground. But I think it's just gone a little bit too far with the meltdown that I've seen from some people. And it just makes Brentford fans look a little bit bitter because we've lost a game of football. I don't know what you think about that, Craig.
I just want to make a couple of points on this whole thing as well. The reverse fixture last year when he scored against us, as Daz mentioned, he scored, he ran away from the Brentford fans and celebrated. A few people didn't like the fact that he celebrated. But after the game, that was when we got absolutely smashed 4-0, I think it was that game,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
We were 3-0 down inside like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the game, I don't know if you remember,
Yeah, he
Michael
came over and gave someone his shirt, didn't he?
Woody. He came over to the Brentford fans, gave Woody his shirt. He applauded all of the Brentford fans that had stayed.
And we clapped him after the game, and we clapped him.
But and his post-match interview where he says about what he's done and why he's done it and things like that, he's also given Brentford more praise in that interview than I've seen some current Brentford players give us. Where he says, "I love Brentford. I love the staff. I love the players. I love the club. I love the fans. But this one fan." Now, obviously, one can affect the many, and in this incident, him giving abuse or giving some back to this one fan has incited dogs abuse from every other Brentford fan, and it's just unfortunate. But some people, I've seen some, like you said, the social media reaction is bad. I've seen some people comparing him to Martin Rowlands.
Yeah,
And you're talking about someone going to your bitter rivals, kissing the badge after celebrating in front of not just one fan, every fan. Maybe some of the online reaction has been a bit over the top. Yeah.
I just think,
for
I
me,
think it's. Go on.
Go on. Sorry, for me, all he's done is put himself in amongst the rest of the knobhead footballers. Really, I don't dislike him. I still think he's a nice bloke. I'm sure he's a nice bloke. You've only got to see what he does, using Woody as an example again. I'm sure Woody's not the only kid. I'm sure he's like that with lots of kids. Right? But for me, he's just another knobhead footballer now, who's gonna get the abuse that other knobhead footballers get when they play Brentford. Yeah. And if Brentford follow up on this Villa club tweet about it going to the police and weeding out this fan for abuse, and footballers shouldn't have to play with abuse. Yeah, I know it's a petty thing to say, but all footballers get abuse down at all levels of the game. Footballers get abuse. When we go down to Brackley, I'll still shout abusive things at footballers, and they can hear me a lot more clearly in amongst 400 people than they can amongst 17,000 people. Right? But they don't take it personal because they're doing what they enjoy doing. And at our level now, they're getting paid a shitload of money for it as well. So grow up here, Ollie, grow up here.
Yeah, I think the whole Villa statement was a little bit weird. And I think, I just hope that we're not still speaking about bloody Ollie Watkins until the next time we play Villa, and we can make a big deal of it then. But I just feel like, I think in the heat of the moment, when I tweeted that out and I've seen so many people like really coming for me, like this guy tweeted out saying that he loves the podcast, but now he's thinking about maybe having second thoughts about listening to it, just because I think everyone was so angry at that time that if you came out and said anything in defence, not even in defence, but just anything that was not considered pro Brentford, and I want Ollie Watkins' head on a fucking plate, then you're gonna get grilled by some of the fans. But let's move on. Let's table the Ollie Watkins chat. But let's hear from anyone in the comments with what they think, what their take is now that the dust has settled. Drop it below. We'll have a conversation about it, because I feel like now it's been a couple of days since the result. You can have a sort of clearer vision, a clearer opinion on what unfolded on Sunday. Whereas I think on Sunday, everyone was just a little bit, the red mist was definitely there after the game, after being so close to maybe getting a point, probably deserving a point. I feel like we were looking for someone to be angry at, and it was Ollie Watkins. And don't get me wrong, I'm still angry at him now, and I will be there at Villa Park, and I will, say some things to him at Villa Park, as I'm sure every other fan will do when we're there. And like you said, Russell, I think he goes down as another knob footballer, as opposed to someone who we used to think quite highly of. And I think they should be tabled at that. Let's go on to Wolves. Got a bit of time to digest the Villa game, and then it's Wolves at home on the 27th. Craig, how are you feeling before that? We'll keep this section very brief because I'm going to do a Wolves preview with one of their podcasts. But how are you feeling before that game?
I think that's probably another one of those must-win games for us. I think any fixture kind of through this busy period is a bit hard to call because of the injuries that we've got. it's difficult to know. It's difficult to know what we've got coming. You know, it's I don't know what team it's going to be. I don't know who's going to play where because we've got no Ben Mee now. So Zanka's obviously going to have to come back in and play.
Or Collins.
Or Collins, obviously, actually. Yeah, sorry, I forgot he was back. Collins is going to come back in. So I hope Sam plays right back. Let's just throw that out there to start with. I hope Sam plays. But I want to say I'm feeling confident, but I don't know. I can't call anything at the moment.
What do you reckon, Russ? I think with our form, it is a pretty important game. I think we've now lost 5 out of our last 6, with that result against Luton sort of sandwiched in the middle. But how are you feeling ahead of the game?
If we play at the levels that we played on Sunday, then I'm confident we'll win. In exactly the same way as going into that Luton game on the back of 2 defeats, everyone was of the opinion that if we played as well as we did against Arsenal, we'll win. And we will. You know, I'm pretty sure we'll play 4-3-3. We'll go back to that. So Collins will come in alongside Pinnock, and then it'll probably be Godos and Janelt as the fullbacks. You know, hopefully Jensen will be back then as well. So you'll have I think personally you'll have the Danish midfield trio of Norgard, Jensen, and Damsgaard, and then you've got Wissam, Maupay, and KLP up top. And I see no reason whatsoever that we can't go on and win that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as well with Wolves not being in great form, I think it's a winnable game for sure. It's similar to Luton in the way that we're at home. We're going to play 4 at the back. We're going to have Keane Lewis-Potter, who's just scored. Maupay will start. We'll have a front 3, which I think was something that we lacked against Villa. You know, those are kind of options going forward, the interchangeable dynamic of that front 3 when we do have a front 3. But it will be tough because Wolves have got some fantastic players in their team. I don't know if you've watched Wolves this season. They've got some really good players who I think probably, contrary to like where they are in the table, I'm looking at players like, I know Lemina's out, but Matheus Cunha I thought has been fantastic this season, as has Hwang Hee-chan as well. They've got some really good players in there, especially Cunha. I'm a big fan of his. But it's going to be interesting. But like I said, we'll keep that short and sweet because I do have a Wolves preview coming out next week, so we'll keep that short and sweet. Just before we go, guys, remember, let's get the comments in on the YouTube. Take on the red card, take on the ref consistency that we've spoken about today. Ollie Watkins, obviously, and obviously we want to hear about the performance too. So any questions, anything you want us to talk about in the next podcast or before the Wolves preview that you'd like me to ask the Wolves guests that I have on, just let me know in the comments. We're trying to make this kind of platform the interactive one that can sort of build like a community within the fan base. So yeah, drop the comments down below and we'll keep them in mind for the next episode. So shout out to Jeremy for the last comment on the YouTube video. His comment was asking about what we thought about the whole situation with Watkins and all that kind of stuff. So kind of covered throughout the episode. And shout out to everyone else that commented on the last one. We haven't ignored you. It's just that quite a busy rundown today with sort of all the drama that happened on Sunday, but we will get to those questions next week. Eden Road Podcast will be back for the Wolves preview, so please keep your eyes peeled for that. And just before we go, remember to subscribe. I feel like I've been talking for ages. Jesus Christ. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Leave a rating and also follow us on our socials at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Oh, breathe. Pleasure, Craig, Russell. It's been great talking to you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
brilliant. Cheers.